over. And I want to make a scenario with you guys here where we try to imagine a scene where we change, where we sort of have me wearing a GoPro on the top of my head, and then later on in this sketch we will sort of simulate that I click a button here, you see here, and then I shift perspective. So we can sort of shift bodies, simply because it was the most creative thing that I could think of right there. To do that, I'll show you how to make a virtual reality scene, because now we actually need to go up here in File and press New and New Sequence. And when you do that, you will see that we have used just a digital video presets here in a widescreen, but there is actually also a sequence preset called VR, where we will choose monoscopic because we haven't recorded anything in 3D. So we still just have a flat but 360-degree imagery here. And we can just select maybe the lowest resolutions because it will be most fluently run on your computers. Ambisonics means is the soundscape also behind you, so if you have recorded with something like that, it might be useful, but it is also a bit more harsh on the computer. So for now, I'll just select this lowest VR resolution in monoscopic here. And then I get a sequence now, which more or less looks like the other sequence did. But when I begin to import some footage, double-clicking over here and finding my first person, that was one, this one, in the head-mounted 360-degree cam demo. If you just select the Peter and the Tessa, that is my colleague in the video, and the press to change image here, then we should now have some imagery of me, and you can see it looks all distorted because now we are having real 360-degree content here. And if you don't have the button, you can press over here. There's a plus and addition sign. And when you press that one, there is this one called Toggle VR Display. And you can drag this one down here. So you press the button here, the plus button, and you can drag the Toggle VR Video Overlay. And you can drag this down here into the control settings. And you can actually do that both in the source monitor and in the editor monitor.
Sorry, what did you click?
I click the plus sign here, the button editor, and then I take this one called Toggle VR Video, and you just drag and drop it down here.
Where's the cursor? Oh,
there, and I drag it down here where you have the control panel. And then it should be down here as a button now. See what happens here when I drag my video down in the timeline. I can just change sequence settings. What happens when I press that button then is that now I actually get the view as if it was in 360. So if it was on a YouTube or a Facebook, or how I would see it in a Google Cardboard or in a HTC Vive headset. So we can toggle this on and off. Do I want to see what's happening, or what do I do? And now we can see, the funny thing here is that this video has been recorded with the standard, the center position geometrically of the video pointing towards my hair. And my hair is one of my least interesting features. So what we'll need to do is to adjust the offset, and you'll probably often do that because if you don't adjust this, when people open this thing in a YouTube video, if you want to show this, then this will be the direction they're heading before actually moving themselves all the way around. So what we'll do over here is you can search for the effect called an offset. That is essentially we just say, okay, how should we change the natural direction of this video? You can see it's actually under distort, but it might be one beneficial to drag down into your sketching component library. So if I drag offset over my clip with me here, go into effects control, you can actually see that I can now shift the center of this movie. Shift it all the way so I point towards Tessa here instead. So now we have, when the video starts by having me here, and I can then begin to look down, say, okay. And Tessa is telling me about her latest research into fandoms online, but that's completely out of the scope here. And you can see I've actually taped up some green paper here on a chair because I had this idea that the way that I change perspective is that I press sort of a button on this simulator that I'm inside. So when I do this, when I do that, I actually want it to change perspective into the clip with Tessa. So I'll find the corresponding clip with Tessa over here, drag that down into my timeline, and I'll drag it up in the same layer because here we actually want things to fade in between each other. So something like that. And then you can see we're having the same problem here with Tessa. So again, we can just copy the offset that we did with the effect over in the other footage here and just paste it in here. And then Tessa will look more or less the right direction. So now we want to sort of make this, let's play it along here, that when I press this button, wink, it should sort of transmorph us into this. So, we could of course just, sorry?
For some reason, this looks completely different.
How does it?
I don't know, like everything looks really distorted from, I can't figure out.
Distorted, like pixelated, or?
Now, if you look here, your arms look really weird.
Oh, but you have to press the button you inserted, down this one. This little button you inserted. You have to press that one. The toggle VR. No, it's okay. It should be. You can see if I untoggle mine, it also looks completely weird. But as soon as I toggle it, I begin to get sort of a view where I can drag around the viewfinder of our. Does it look correctly on the rest of your?
It looks like this now. Really good close-up of Tessa.
You're getting a really good close-up of her. I think it has to do with the offset. Try to, if you press the effects icon and the offset, try to press that and see if maybe it changes it. If not, we'll get to it afterwards. I'll try to figure out the.
I think you can change the width of the video.
Yeah, why is this
It might.
Is it fit to frame maybe? If you write
Yeah, maybe it's the scales of frame size. Oh yeah, then that's the offset you need to use there to rotate it, so that you use.
No, like the screen is like square.
Oh yeah.
There's no offset anywhere.
Yeah, let me see. Okay, yeah. You right click. To do that, you right click on top of the monitor here. Right click anywhere here. And go down here in video, VR video, and just press settings. And then you change the monitor view horizontal to be a higher number, to be something like 180 degrees. That should do the trick.
Oh,
Again, uncharted waters, it's completely fine. That's also why it makes probably sense that we sit here and do a bit of it together, because it really is uncharted for many, this stuff. The interesting thing now, to make a cut in something that makes sense within a headset is not the same as making a cut in a normal video. If I made a normal cross dissolve, you could probably imagine that if something just faded entire view and I had it in front of my eyes, my mind could actually be fooled to thinking that I was close to fainting, because it would actually look like if I became ill. So what Adobe has done is a little neat trick that if we write down here in the effects panel, if I write VR, I can see they have made some video transitions for immersive video. All of these transition effects are made so that most people won't get motion sick or won't have sort of an itchy feeling by having the transition, even though there might be some crazy motions in it. For an example, if we chose to use this one called Morpheus Zoom, that is when you sort of warp through a tunnel. That's kind of what the effect that we want to make here. If I drag this Morpheus Zoom between our two clips, it should now make it so like zoom. So even though it looks a bit wild here, in the headset, it would teleport me, so my viewpoint is constantly controlled. So it's just like a roller coaster. It's not something, it might be a bit discomforting, but it doesn't make me feel sick. So now we actually have it. Now we have a video of me clicking a button, and if I had a clicking sound now, unfortunately, of course, I forgot to give you the clicking sound, or at least I can't find where I put it. But if I had a clicking sound, and you can find that on one of the free resources on the web, then we could just have the where do I have my clicking. You see, I have you might find something like this on the free archive, saying, hear that? So, just to again emphasize that something is actually happening here. So around here, I wanted to sort of say, and maybe I actually wanted to happen at the moment that the effects begin. So around here, I want my clicking sound to happen. So something like this. Now Tessa is telling something.
Kreativitetsmodel, der består. Okay, så vi er I gang med fanfiction.
And you can see we can adjust this stuff to our liking. Maybe we actually wanted this this transition to happen much sooner. Maybe it's already at the moment where I do something like this. And we can just move the clip, reapply the morph, reapply, and move it over here.
Okay, så vi er I gang med fanfiction
like
igen,
that.
og den er bog.
But you can see we could do a lot of different experiments with this, and with the GoPro Fusion, it might also be beneficial to just, for example, you can make it into a tripod with the equipment in the box, and if it worked, and we could essentially just have it, have it record an environment like this. And if we wanted to act out a scenario of, okay, how would a user actually do this around an entire scape or inside a small room, then just place it in the middle of the room and then begin to walk out and enact the different stuff. You don't have to make something as sophisticated as this, but just about considering the stuff, okay, how do I know when I have a viewfinder like this, how do I know if something interesting is happening to the side, behind me? What could we do? And we could begin to edit all sorts of things. Sounds, we could animate, we could put a piece of graphic up here, sort of pointing an arrow or whatever. That is the sort of stuff we should begin to experiment with now that we actually have the 360-degree view field here. And of course, if I wanted to put in some graphics here, now that I had made the green screen effect, I could of course just take the Alt key, the green screen effect, I can apply it to my video as we've done before now, and now I've just, instead of having an entire background removed, I only removed this small little element here. So if I wanted to, and I wanted to put this interface in behind me, I could just drag this down here below the timeline. And you can see right now it's actually nowhere to be found because it's in the background, but you can see it's actually here. So I have to change back from this view. So I can actually drag it down here. So now be that I have a button. And I can see the button is down here. And of course, since I wore it on my head, and I move my head a bit, we would need to sort of keyframe animate this to make it, look right. Because as soon as I begin to move, you can see the graphic, of course, also moves with my head. So here, if you wanted to make an experiment which looked like this, I would probably recommend that you took the entire camera and fixated it behind me, just so you can have movement like that. You can see it moves a little around. So, but that is actually the basics of recording and then editing some footage from the GoPro Fusion. And I also do think that more or less all of your projects could make use of some kind of simulating, emulating, enacting some of the environments being able to be used here.